Harry's relationship with Chelsy Davy, the true love of his life, front and center.
There was a reason Meghan Markle begged Prince Harry not to wage war against the Daily Mail in court. A specific reason she desperately wanted to keep buried. A reason that had nothing to do with press freedom or legal strategy. And today, that reason exploded into public view inside a London courtroom. Day 2 of Prince Harry's bombshell lawsuit against the Daily Mail newspaper just ripped open wounds Meghan thought were sealed forever. Wounds involving the woman Harry once believed was the true love of his life. The woman whose name still makes Meghan's blood run cold. Chelsy Davy. For hours, intimate details of Harry and Chelsy's romance were dissected in excruciating detail. Their private travel plans, their secret rendezvous, the places Harry preferred to spend the night. Information so personal, so revealing, that even hardened court reporters seemed uncomfortable witnessing it. Harry sat motionless as his lawyer paraded their relationship across the international stage. Every stolen moment, every whispered confidence, every detail that proves just how different Chelsy was from the woman he eventually married. And thousands of miles away in California, you can bet Meghan Markle was watching, seething. Because this trial isn't just exposing alleged press misconduct anymore. It's exposing the one thing Meghan never wanted the world to examine too closely: the stark, undeniable contrast between herself and the woman Harry truly loved. The courthouse moment. When Prince Harry arrived at the High Court for day 2 of his legal battle, something felt different. The energy had shifted. An independent journalist stationed outside shouted a question that cut straight to the heart of everything. "Harry, how important is free speech alongside press accountability?" Silence. Harry walked past without acknowledgement, without even a glance. His bald head, now impossible to ignore, caught the morning light as cameras captured every angle for the next day's front pages. The Times, The Guardian, The Telegraph, all of them would run those images. All of them would analyze what they revealed. Because if you looked closely at Harry's face, really studied it, you could see something troubling. This wasn't just another day in court. This was taking a visible toll. And the day had barely begun. At 11:06 a.m., Harry's lawyer, David Sherborne, moved to his final example of alleged unlawful information gathering. Article published in 2010. Written by Katie Nicholl, one of the female journalists Harry has specifically targeted in this lawsuit. Sherborne's voice carried across the courtroom as he described the article's contents. Specific and intimate details of his private life and relationship with Chelsy Davy. Let that sink in for a moment. Not just any details, intimate details. The article revealed that Harry was a regular fixture at Davy's house. It discussed their plans as a couple. It specified Harry's preferences for where he liked to spend the night. Sherborne emphasized the sensitivity. Prince Harry says this is highly sensitive information in his witness statement. Then came the critical claim. Prince Harry's evidence is absolutely firm that it couldn't have come from another person other than Davy or him, and neither of them shared this. Do you see what Harry is suggesting here? That the only possible way this information could have reached the press was through illegal means. Not through friends, not through palace sources, not through anyone who might have legitimately known. Just illegal hacking, blagging, or surveillance. But here's where it gets complicated. The Patrick Gibbs mystery. Sherborne revealed that journalist Katie Nicholl claims she obtained these intimate details from Patrick Gibbs, a former press secretary to Prince Charles, who was living in semi-retirement on the Isle of Wight during his final year alive. Harry's lawyer scoffed at this explanation. It is utterly implausible that he could have provided this information to Nicholl. Instead, they allege she used unlawful information gathering techniques. But wait, is it really that implausible? Patrick Gibbs worked inside the royal household for years. He had relationships with people who had relationships with Harry. Information flows in unexpected ways through those circles. This is where Harry's case starts to show cracks, because proving how information traveled, especially information from 2 decades ago, requires more than suspicion. It requires evidence. And suspicion, no matter how strong, isn't enough in a court of law. The article that changes everything. But then Sherborne moved to an article from 2004 that's much harder to explain away, much more damaging to the Daily Mail's defense. This one detailed Harry and Chelsy's travel plans together. It revealed that Harry had brought her on a private hunting expedition to a lodge in Argentina, information that absolutely nobody outside their immediate circle should have possessed. And here's where the evidence starts to appear. An email from Heather Briley to Caroline Graham at the Daily Mail. Now, do you recognize that name? Caroline Graham? She's the journalist who was in the Philippines with Thomas Markle when he had his staged heart attack. She's now close friends with Thomas Markle. She's featured in his social media posts, his interviews, his life. This is probably one of the reasons Harry hates her so intensely. The email read, "Have spoken to contact at British Airways half an hour ago and offered, then $2 in return for a name. He's gone off to investigate. Harry is paranoid about her being outed." There it is. Evidence of payment. Evidence of a British Airways contact being bribed for passenger information. Evidence that Chelsy Davy's privacy was violated for a newspaper story. Another email shown to the court came from Caroline Graham to David Dinsmore, currently the editor of the Mail on Sunday. Another enemy of Harry's, given his role in publishing revelations about Thomas Markle. Sherborne's interpretation: these emails clearly refer to the payment of information unlawfully obtained through British Airways through payments or blagging. This is damaging. This is the kind of evidence that could actually move the needle in Harry's favor. But it's also about Chelsy Davy, not Meghan. And that distinction matters more than you might think. Harry's emotional claims. In his witness statement, Harry doesn't just stick to the facts. He ventures into emotional territory. He talks about distress, paranoia, the psychological impact of having his privacy violated during this relationship. His barrister confirmed that Harry will give evidence personally on Thursday. That's when this case could either strengthen dramatically or fall apart completely. Because once Harry takes that witness stand, he'll face cross-examination. And cross-examination has a way of exposing inconsistencies, exaggerations, and selective memories. Can Harry prove these articles caused him genuine distress? Or will the Daily Mail's lawyers reveal that he was perfectly happy to have other aspects of his life publicized when it suited him? We're about to find out. The Rebecca English bombshell. If there's one journalist Prince Harry seems determined to destroy professionally, it's Rebecca English, the current royal editor of the Daily Mail and co-host of their Palace Confidential YouTube show. Yesterday, according to courtroom reporters, Harry's lawyer accused English of obtaining exact plane seats, flight times, and travel plans of Chelsy Davy in December 2007. Not approximate information, exact details. Prince Harry's witness statement describes this as not only intrusive information, but it also carried security risks. And here's where another email surfaces. Another piece of evidence that's difficult to explain away. According to the evidence presented, Rebecca English allegedly paid £200 to private investigator Mike Burr for this information, including Chelsy Davy's specific seat number. Now, Rebecca English reportedly says she doesn't remember this email. But if the email exists, if the payment was processed, if the documentation is authentic, then "I don't remember" might not be sufficient defense. Think about what this means. A royal editor allegedly paying a private investigator to track the travel plans of the prince's girlfriend, not for security purposes, not for legitimate news gathering, but for a story about a romantic relationship. Prince Harry's witness statement emphasizes how frustrating this was. It was entirely frustrating that this information came out while Prince Harry was trying to maintain a private relationship. And here's his conclusion. It demonstrates irresistibly that English used unlawful information gathering. But does it? Does it really demonstrate this irresistibly? Or is Harry making a logical leap that may not hold up under scrutiny? The make-or-break holiday story. Another article from 2007 focused on Harry's plans to take Chelsy Davy on what sources described as a make-or-break holiday. The relationship was under strain. Everyone knew it. The question was whether they could salvage what they once had. An email to Mail's staff from the same private investigator, Mike Burr, revealed just how far journalists went to track this story. He wrote about doing surveillance on several sources, noting that Chelsy Davy was on standby, and then, at the last minute, paid cash for a ticket at the airport. The email concluded, maybe this is their way to avoid detection. Think about that for a moment. Chelsy Davy paid cash at the airport specifically to avoid being tracked. She and Harry were actively trying to maintain privacy. They were taking concrete steps to keep their relationship out of the tabloids. And yet, investigators working for the Mail went to such lengths that despite everything the Duke of Sussex and Chelsy Davy did to maintain their privacy, it was entirely frustrated, according to Sherborne. His conclusion: the inference that the information was unlawfully obtained is absolutely obvious. But here's where we need to pause and ask a critical question. Is this inference actually obvious? Or is it Harry's interpretation of events? Because the Daily Mail will argue, and has already begun arguing, that this information came from legitimate sources, friends who talked, palace staff who leaked, people in Harry's social circle who couldn't keep a secret. And that brings us to the elephant in the room, the Chelsy versus Meghan contrast. Here's what Meghan Markle absolutely does not want anyone examining too closely. Chelsy Davy was the height of discretion. She didn't want fame. She didn't leak details of their private life to magazines. She didn't pose for photo shoots or pursue television opportunities. She could have monetized her relationship with Harry 1,000 different ways. She chose not to. Now compare that to Meghan Markle. Meghan leaked details of her private life with Harry multiple times, to Omid Scobie for Finding Freedom, to Oprah Winfrey for that bombshell interview, to Netflix for their documentary series, to Harry himself for his memoir, Spare. Meghan didn't just allow intimate details of her relationship with Harry to become public. She orchestrated it, controlled it, profited from it. So when Harry sits in that courtroom, voice filled with righteous anger about how the press violated his privacy with Chelsy Davy, Meghan knows exactly what the public is thinking. Where was this energy when you were selling your privacy to Netflix for millions of dollars? The hypocrisy is staggering, and it's exactly why Meghan didn't want Harry pursuing this case. What the court documents actually reveal. Let's be clear about what we're seeing in these court filings. Harry is presenting 14 articles he claims were written using unlawfully gathered information about his private life. The first dates back to 2001, when Prince Harry was chosen as godfather to Tiggy Lega-Bork's child. Lega-Bork was known for her discretion, yet the article contained private information and a quote attributed to her. Katie Nicholl claims she heard it from a party planner and confirmed it with a socialite. Harry's lawyers argue neither of them are plausible as sources. But here's the problem with Harry's logic. He actually has no idea where stories come from. He's guessing. He's making assumptions based on who he thinks might or might not talk. That's not evidence. That's speculation. And speculation doesn't win lawsuits. What we need to see, what the judge will demand, is concrete proof that these journalists engaged in illegal activity. Emails are good. Payment records are better. Testimony from the private investigators themselves would be best. Without that, this case becomes he said, she said. And in those situations, judges tend to side with the defendants. The Daily Mail fights back. The Daily Mail's response was surprising. Instead of getting bogged down in point-by-point rebuttals, their lead counsel, Anthony White QC, wrapped up their opening statement quickly and succinctly. His strategy: we're going to leave it to the individual journalists to go into the details in future proceedings. But let me establish our core defense right now. And that defense boils down to two words: legitimate sourcing. White told the court, the articles don't appear out of nowhere and are generally the continuation of ongoing widespread reporting. Many contain what has previously been reported. In other words, these weren't scoops obtained through illegal hacking. They were stories built on information that was already circulating, confirmed through multiple sources, reported through normal journalistic practices. White continued, they present a compelling pattern of legitimate sourcing. This is a smart legal strategy, because if the Daily Mail can demonstrate that most of this information was available through legitimate channels, friends who talked, public records, previous reporting, then Harry's case falls apart. You can't claim illegal information gathering when the information was already public or obtainable through legal means. The three female journalists Harry wants to destroy. Make no mistake, Prince Harry has come personally for what he sees as the big beasts of Fleet Street. And notably, they're all women. Katie Nicholl, television personality and royal correspondent. She's had incredible access to the royal family over the years. She's written best-selling books. She's respected in her field. Rebecca English, current royal editor of the Daily Mail. She co-hosts Palace Confidential. She has working relationships with senior royals, particularly Prince William. Victoria Newton, editor of the Sun newspaper. She maintains very close relationships with both Prince William and King Charles. She's one of the most powerful editors in British media. Harry is trying to destroy the reputations of these three accomplished female journalists. And his weapon? Allegations that they engaged in illegal activity 2 decades ago. Anthony White made this explicit. The allegations are made against the company, but in reality, they're made against individual journalists. He called the allegations very serious. All of the journalists would have to be lying to the court about the articles. This has an inherent improbability. Think about what White is saying. For Harry to be right, Katie Nicholl has to be lying. Rebecca English has to be lying. Victoria Newton has to be lying. Every source they've cited has to be fabricated. Every explanation they've provided has to be false. Is that plausible? Is it really likely that multiple award-winning journalists, all with decades of credibility, all with reputations to protect, would commit perjury to defend articles written 15 to 20 years ago? Or is it more likely that Harry's memory is selective, his assumptions are wrong, and his case is weaker than he believes? The time factor defense. White's next point was devastating. Most articles were written between 15 to 20 years ago. He emphasized that it's a striking feature that the Mail has been able to obtain evidence from almost all the journalists who wrote these articles despite the passage of time. Though it is inevitable, given the length of time, that some circumstances have changed. Some sources have died, some have retired, others have moved to new companies. It makes it more striking that they have produced so much evidence. This is brilliant lawyering. White is saying, look, we've managed to track down nearly everyone involved in these stories from 2 decades ago. We've gathered their recollections, their notes, their explanations. The fact that we're willing and able to do so speaks volumes about the culture of our organization. Then he drove the knife deeper. The case by Prince Harry is clutching at straws. Specifically, White accused Harry of using generic evidence about hacking at other newspapers and attempting to apply it to the Daily Mail without proof that the Mail engaged in the same conduct. This is a critical distinction. Just because the News of the World hacked phones doesn't mean the Daily Mail did. You can't convict someone by association. The emails that won't go away. Here's where the Daily Mail's defense hits a significant obstacle. The emails. Yes, Rebecca English might claim she doesn't remember sending an email to a private investigator about Chelsy Davy's travel plans. But if that email exists, if it was sent from her account, if payment records confirm £200 was transferred to Mike Burr for that specific information, then memory becomes irrelevant. The documentation speaks for itself. And this is where Harry's case has genuine strength. Not in his assumptions or his feelings or his interpretations, but in the hard evidence, emails, invoices, payment records. The email from Caroline Graham about paying a British Airways contact for passenger information? That's evidence. The invoice from Victoria Newton to a private investigative firm on the exact day Elizabeth Hurley checked into hospital to have her baby? That's evidence. These aren't things you can wave away with "I don't recall" or "that must have been obtained legitimately somehow." If you paid a private investigator, the question becomes, what were you paying them to investigate? And how did they obtain that information? The Liz Hurley subplot. Prince Harry isn't taking this case alone. He's joined by 7 claimants, including Elton John, David Furnish, Sadie Frost, Doreen Lawrence, and Elizabeth Hurley. Liz Hurley's complaints center on 14 articles published between 2002 and 2011. The first, written by Victoria Newton in 2002, concerned the paternity of her son Damien, who was sitting beside her in court as these intimate details were discussed. Imagine that for a moment. Damien Hurley listening as lawyers dissect the circumstances of his birth, the paternity battle with Steve Bing, the private conversations his mother had during one of the most difficult periods of her life. An invoice from Victoria Newton to private investigative firm TDI falls on the exact day Hurley checked into hospital to have her baby. The notation reads, "Re-Hurley pregnant." Sherborne argued, "This shows Newton's persistent interest in Hurley. Newton has no explanation for the information in the article." Another article from September 2002 revealed very, very private details about Hurley's innermost thoughts and feelings about being single as a new mother. Journalist Nicole Lampert, who still works for the Mail on a freelance basis, was allegedly vague about where she got the information from. But payment records show 2 chunky payments to private investigating firm JJ Services from Lampert in October 2002. Both payments were £170. Both were titled Nicole Lampert Inquiries. Again, the documentation exists. The payments were made. The only question is, what were these journalists paying private investigators to do? The Elton John birth certificate mystery. Then there's Elton John's complaint about the 2010 birth of his surrogate son in Los Angeles. The Daily Mail published details about the birth and obtained his birth certificate before Elton and David Furnish did. Journalists Ben Todd and David Gardner claimed the information had been given to a journalist over the phone by the LA Registry Office. David Sherborne asked, "Is it plausible a registrar would provide confirmation of the birth over the phone to a journalist before a birth certificate was even issued?" His answer: "No, it was obtained through blagging." Blagging, for those unfamiliar, means calling up officials and pretending to be someone else to obtain information journalists wouldn't normally receive. It's illegal, it's deceptive, and if it can be proven, it's devastating to the Daily Mail's defense. The woman Meghan can never erase. Here's the truth that burns through Meghan Markle like acid. Chelsy Davy represented everything Meghan could never be in Harry's life. She was there before the fame became overwhelming, before the scrutiny became unbearable, before Harry became the bitter, isolated man we see in that courtroom today. Angela Levin, Harry's biographer who knew both women and observed their relationships with Harry, provided devastating insight. She wasn't interested in being on television, having loads of money, sitting in the best chairs or anything like that. Chelsy didn't want the spotlight. She wanted Harry, just Harry. But here's what most people don't know about how that relationship actually ended. The narrative has always been that press intrusion drove them apart, that the constant surveillance made normal life impossible. Angela Levin revealed a different story. When Harry started learning how to fly airplanes, he completely abandoned her. He left her alone, stopped going up to see her. She was doing a course for something to do with animals, and he just didn't bother to see her for quite a long time. Chelsy was making new friends at college. She wanted Harry to come meet them. He refused. Eventually, Chelsy had to fill out some form asking if she was in a relationship. She wrote, "single." She was heartbroken because Harry had essentially dumped her through neglect. So all this crying in court about how the press destroyed his relationship with Chelsy? According to someone who actually knew them both, that's historical revision. Harry destroyed that relationship himself. Why Meghan is watching this so closely, Angela Levin explained exactly why this trial terrifies Meghan. Any woman, Meghan doesn't like that at all. She'll be absolutely beside herself. And I think that's why she's starting doing all these ridiculous dances and telling everybody what's going on and being as if she loves him so much, which I doubt. Think about Meghan's recent behavior, the sudden burst of social media activity, the dancing videos, the very public displays of affection that seem almost performative. It's all reaction, all distraction, all desperate attempts to control a narrative that's slipping away from her. Because this trial is doing something Meghan never wanted. It's making people compare her directly to Chelsy Davy. And in that comparison, Meghan loses. Every single time. Chelsy was discreet. Meghan leaks to the press constantly. Chelsy didn't want fame. Meghan has built her entire post-royal life around maintaining celebrity status. Chelsy protected Harry's family relationships. Meghan destroyed them. Chelsy could have monetized her connection to Harry in countless ways. She chose not to. Meghan monetized that connection to the tune of millions of dollars through book deals, Netflix contracts, and Spotify agreements. The wedding invitation that revealed everything. Angela Levin shared another telling detail. Meghan was very upset when Harry insisted on inviting Chelsy to the wedding, but Harry was adamant. He wanted Chelsy there. Meghan didn't really want that, but she allowed him to, because you're not going to have a fight with someone who's going to be your husband. Chelsy thought carefully about whether to attend. In the end, she went. She was charming. She was gracious. And then she walked away from Harry's life forever. Angela's conclusion: he's missed out enormously there. But on the other hand, I think she's been saved. Saved from what? From the man Harry has become, from the constant litigation, from the paranoia, from the vendetta against the press that has consumed his life. She might have had quite a difficult man to live with, Angela observed. He doesn't seem to be getting better from anything. The toll becomes visible. Throughout day 2 of this trial, journalists watched Harry's every micro-expression, every shift in his seat, every moment of visible emotion. The Daily Telegraph published a piece headlined, "If his high-stakes legal battle weighed on Harry, he gave little away." But that's the point, isn't it? Harry knows Meghan is watching. He knows she'll be analyzing every reaction when evidence about Chelsy Davy is presented. So he maintains control, keeps his face neutral, gives nothing away. But the cost of that control is written all over him in other ways. The appearance. Everyone's talking about. Social media exploded with commentary about Harry's appearance at court. One viral post from Princess Cupcake compared photos from January 16, 2021 and January 19, 2026, just 5 years apart. Her caption: "This isn't aging. This is 5 years of loss, unhappiness, resentment, loneliness, and regret. No one will ever convince me that Harry is content with his life and so in love. A happy and fulfilled life doesn't do this to you." Her advice to Harry: call your family, grovel, apologize, do what you have to do, but go home. But then the devastating conclusion: "I think that bridge is burned to ash. His wife is slowly destroying him. But then again, you get what you pay for." Angela Levin was equally blunt about Harry's courtroom appearance. "He looks as if he sleeps on the street. He's got the bald bit, and it's all over the place. It's not neatly cut, so it would fit in with the baldness. He's got sort of trails at the back. If you compare it to about 6 months ago, it was all cut and neat." She continued, "If he's coming to a hearing, he should look decent. It looks rubbishy. Absolutely rubbishy. This isn't just about vanity. It's about what these physical changes represent. The stress, the isolation, the toll of spending years locked in legal battles instead of living life. What the judge really thinks." Angela Levin revealed something critical about how the presiding judge views Harry. "He's absolutely fed up with Harry because he keeps coming in and back and in and back, driving them mad and not behaving in the way that you do in this sort of institution." She recounted the judge once telling Harry, "What you feel is not what's actually going to happen. That's not the truth. That's not the way it works." In other words, your emotions aren't evidence. Your feelings aren't facts. This is a court of law, not a therapy session. But Harry seems incapable of understanding that distinction. He believes the intensity of his feelings proves the truth of his claims. It doesn't. The pattern of endless litigation. Angela pointed out that Harry has been pursuing legal action for years and years, and he still doesn't understand quite what is needed. This is someone who has spent millions of pounds, countless hours, and immeasurable emotional energy on lawsuits against the media. And what has he accomplished? Damaged relationships with his family? Check. Isolated himself from British public life? Check. Made himself unemployable by British media? Check. Actually proven widespread illegal activity against him specifically? Still waiting. The tragedy is that even if Harry wins this case, even if the judge rules in his favor on some or all of his claims, what has he really won? His relationship with his father is destroyed. His relationship with his brother is destroyed. His reputation in the UK is in tatters. His marriage appears increasingly strained under the weight of all this legal drama. He'll have won a battle while losing the war. The truth Meghan fears. Strip away the legal arguments, the emails, the payment records, the competing narratives about how journalists obtained information. What this trial actually reveals is much simpler and much more devastating. Prince Harry was deeply, genuinely in love with Chelsy Davy in a way he may never have been with Meghan Markle. The intensity with which he's fighting to prove the press destroyed that relationship tells you everything. He's still not over it. He's still processing what he lost. He's still convinced that external forces, not his own choices, ended the most significant romantic relationship of his life. And Meghan knows it. She knows that when Harry talks about privacy being violated, about intimate details being exposed, about the press making normal life impossible, he's not thinking about his relationship with her. He's thinking about Chelsy, the questions we should be asking. So let me ask you directly. Do you believe Harry's privacy was genuinely violated by illegal information gathering? Or do you think information naturally leaked from his social circle and he's retroactively claiming it must have been obtained illegally? Do you think the Daily Mail engaged in systematic unlawful behavior? Or do you think they practiced aggressive but legal journalism? Do you believe Harry is pursuing this case for truth and accountability? Or do you think he's pursuing it because he never processed the grief of losing Chelsy Davy and needs someone to blame? And most importantly, do you think Meghan Markle is genuinely supportive of this legal battle? Or do you think she's terrified of what it's revealing about Harry's true feelings? The evidence we're still waiting for. Here's what will determine the outcome of this case. Can Harry prove those emails represent illegal activity, not just aggressive reporting? Can he demonstrate that information couldn't have been obtained through legitimate sources? Can he show that journalists lied about their sourcing rather than simply forgot details from 20 years ago? Can he prove actual damages beyond "I felt distressed"? We'll get some of those answers when Harry takes the witness stand on Thursday. That's when his claims will face their toughest test, cross-examination. The Daily Mail's lawyers will ask him about every inconsistency, every exaggeration, every time he claimed privacy while simultaneously courting publicity. They'll ask him about Spare, where he voluntarily revealed intimate details about his private life, his family, his relationships. They'll ask him about the Netflix documentary, where he and Meghan exposed their private lives for millions of dollars. They'll ask him about Oprah, about leaked stories to Omid Scobie, about all the times he chose to make his private life public when it benefited him. And Harry will have to explain why press coverage about Chelsy Davy was a violation, but his own exposure of intimate family details was justified. That's the inconsistency at the heart of this entire case. What happens next? The Daily Mail has made their strategy clear. They're not getting bogged down in Harry's emotional claims. They're presenting straightforward evidence that their journalists obtained information through legitimate means. Harry's team is relying on the shock value of those emails, the payment records, the suggestions of blagging and illegal surveillance. The judge will have to decide, is there sufficient evidence of systematic unlawful behavior? Or is this a case of a prince who never accepted that people in his circle talked to the press? One side will win, one side will lose. Appeals will follow regardless of the outcome. But here's what won't change. Harry's relationship with his family won't improve because of this trial. His public reputation won't be rehabilitated by this legal victory. His marriage to Meghan won't become more stable because he proved the press was mean to Chelsy Davy. And Chelsy herself? She's moved on completely. She's happy. She's married with children. She's built a life that has nothing to do with Prince Harry or the royal family. She doesn't need this trial. She doesn't want this exposure. But Harry apparently needs it. Needs to prove something to himself. Needs to believe that external forces destroyed his relationship with the woman he loved. Not his own choices, his own neglect, his own inability to prioritize what mattered. Your turn to decide. Now I want to hear from you. Really hear from you. Do you think Prince Harry has a legitimate case against the Daily Mail? Or is this a vendetta built on selective memory and convenient assumptions? Do you think Meghan Markle is genuinely bothered by this trial exposing details about Chelsy Davy? Or do you think she's secure enough in her marriage not to care? Do you believe the British press engaged in systematic illegal behavior against Harry? Or do you think they practiced aggressive journalism that Harry now regrets not stopping when he had the chance? And here's the biggest question. If Chelsy Davy had said yes, if she'd married Harry instead of Meghan, do you think Harry would be in that courtroom today? Or do you think he'd be living a completely different life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Be honest. Be specific. This is one of those cases where everyone has an opinion, and I genuinely want to know yours. If this video gave you insight you hadn't considered before, hit that like button and share it with someone who's been following this trial. Subscribe and turn on notifications because we're covering every single day of this case as it unfolds. The truth about Harry, Meghan, and Chelsy isn't hidden in court documents. It's written all over Harry's face every time her name is mentioned. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.